So the three things that I want to talk to you about today, again, this is section 7.5. This is day 2. And so now, again, we're talking about properties of logarithms. The first thing I want to talk to you about comes from what we talked about yesterday. Remember, yesterday we talked about our three main properties of logarithms and how to use them to expand logarithms, right? We haven't talked about condensing yet. So when we talk about expanding, there's another type of problem that we need to go over. And that type of problem looks like example 1 on page 507. And they give you some information. Okay? Now, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Well, no, it's okay. No, I'm going to do it differently because I prefer to do it this way because this is the way it will show up on the test. I don't like to give you guys decimals on these problems. Why? Because anybody who wants to can try and do the problem by punching it into their calculator, and that doesn't show that they know how to do the problem. Okay, it shows that they know how to punch it into their calculator. I know the calculator knows how to do logarithms. I want to see if you know how to do logarithms. So I'm going to give you something like example 1. Rather than actually giving you example 1. So we're going to do log base 4 of 3 equals a. And I'm going to give you log base 4 of 5 is equal to b. And you are going to be asked to write the logarithm in terms of just a and b. So the only thing you can have in the final answer is a's, b's, and numbers. No logarithms anymore. Okay, so express in terms of a and b. Now, this is not the way it shows up on the homework, so I'll explain how you adjust what we're doing to how it shows up on the homework. It's a very easy adjustment. All you're going to do is plug numbers in for a and b at the end. That's all. So, they may give you something like log base 4 of 15. Notice, do we know what log base 4 of 15 is based on what they gave us? No. We know log base 4 of 3. We know log base 4 of 5. So the first thing that you guys need to do is you need to take this and you need to rewrite it using 3, 5, multiplication, sorry, not addition, multiplication, division, or exponents, or any combination of those. Why are we only allowed to use multiplication, division, and exponents? Why those three things? Because those are the only properties we have, right? We have a product property, we have a quotient property, we have a power property. Right? That's it. We don't have an addition property, we don't have a subtraction property. So that's why we can only use those three things. So now, ignore the logarithm for a minute, guys. How can I rewrite 15 using 3 and or 5 and multiplication or division or exponents? Oh, 3 times 5. So the first thing you do is you rewrite this as log base 4 of 3 times 5. Anything hard about that? Now what we do is you now expand completely. And this is where people go wrong. They don't expand completely. You expand it like you did last night.
Now expand or?
Now you expand. Once you've rewritten it, now we're going to expand. Oh, sorry, it's supposed to be now. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yes, now expand completely.
Do we only use the numbers 3 and 5 for all the problems that we encounter?
Yes, although I'm going to make an exception to that in a minute because we actually get some stuff for free. But that's what they gave us. So that's what we're going to start with, and then we're going to add on to it. Okay. So, to expand this completely, what does it become? Anything hard about that? It's just what you did last night. Does that expand any further? Can we use any other properties on it? No. Do we know what that guy's equal to? Do we know what this guy's equal to? B. There we go. We rewrote it in terms of A and B only. We're done. That's the answer. Do you guys see how easy that is? These should be the easiest problems on the test, but these are the ones that the majority of people get like every one of them wrong on. Why? Mostly because they don't do it the way I explained it. They don't rewrite just the 15 first, and then even if they do, they don't expand completely. Now this one they may not get wrong, but I'll show you some other examples and I'll show you some of the mistakes people make. But you get the basic idea? Now sometimes how you rewrite that number requires you to get a little bit creative. So let's look at another example. But the process is the same. You just have to think about how to use those numbers. So what happens if we have log base 4 of 45? How do I rewrite just the 45 using 3's, 5's, multiplication, division, or exponents? Good. Log base 4 of 3 squared times 5. Everybody with me on that? 3 squared is what? And 9 times 5 is 45. Not too bad, right? Can we expand this now? Yes. Can I move the 2 to the front right now? But guess what a bunch of people do? Move it to the front when they know they're not supposed to. So that's one mistake. So what should I do first then? So what do I write? Log base 4 of 3 squared plus log base 4 of 5. Now, can I expand this more? Yeah. Now let me show you what people do. Remember I said to expand completely. If we stop right now, have we expanded completely? No. So here's the mistake people make. They say, oh, look, log base 4 of 3 is A, so this must be A squared plus B. Guys, what's being squared here? The 3. But if you write it like this, isn't this whole thing getting squared? Because this whole thing is the A. So do you see the problem with doing it that way? So this is not correct. What should this be written as? 2 log base 4 of 3 plus log base 4 of 5. Now can I expand it any further? No. So what's this guy equal to? A. So this whole thing becomes 2A plus B. So be sure to expand completely. If you stop too early, you're going to get the wrong answer. You're going to plug in for the wrong thing. Now another mistake that people do is people will write things like, okay, well this is 3 squared times 5. So what do they write for the final answer? They write this as log base 4 of A squared plus log base 4 of B. You see they kind of expanded this part way, but the main problem is, what did they say A is equal to? 3. They substituted A in place of 3. Did it say that A was equal to 3? No, what's A equal to? The whole logarithm, right? So that's the other common mistake that people make. Okay? So you've got to pay attention to what the thing actually says. And as long as you do you see that these are actually pretty easy problems? Now, some of them do make you think a little bit, so let's look at one that makes you think a little bit more. All right. So what happens if you get one that looks like this? Log base 4 of 3 over 25. So how do I rewrite 3 over 25 using this stuff? Good. 3 over 5 squared. So to expand that, what am I going to do? Log base 4 of... Go one step at a time. 5 squared. Then what can I do? Bring the 2 to the front. So log base 4 of 3 minus 2 log base 4 of 5. What's this guy equal to? What's this guy equal to? 2b. That's it. Not so bad, right? Now, obviously, they can make the numbers a little bit more involved, but you guys get the idea, right? You just have to stop and think about the numbers. Don't use any plus or minus. No adding or subtracting to make these new numbers. Right? Now when you break it apart, you'll have plus and minus involved, right? When you expand it, but not when you create a new way of writing the number. It's got to be multiplication, division, and exponent so we can use our properties. Now, let me give you this one. And here is where people start to have some trouble, and I'll show you why it's really not a problem. How do we rewrite 12 using 3's and 5's and multiplication, division, and exponents? I thought you guys said this was easy. What's that? No? Because remember, you can't use any adding in here, right? When you break it apart, you can, but not when you rewrite it. Good idea, though. That would give you 12, but it wouldn't allow us to expand it. But we don't know what log base 4 of 2 is. No. No, because remember, this is 4 to some power equals 12, not 4 times what equals 12. Here's how you do it, guys. Now, just bear with me for a minute. Notice I didn't list any 4's here, did I?
No.
What does this expand into, though? What does this guy equal to? What does this guy equal to? Don't we know what log base 4 of 4 is? So here's the thing, guys. In addition to whatever they give you, there are 2 that we get for free that they will never tell you. But you know you get them for free. Since we're using base 4 in the information they gave us, we automatically get log base 4 of itself is equal to what? 1, because 4 to the first equals 4. We don't need them to tell us that. We know that, don't we? The other one we get for free, since we're using base 4 in the information, is log base 4 of 1 equals what? 0. Because 4 to the 0 equals 1. We get those 2 for free. Now, what happens if they were using log base 14 instead of log base 4? Well, then this would have been log base 14 of 14 equals 1 and log base 14 of 1 equals 0. Does that make sense? So it's not that you get log base 4 of 4 equals 1 every single time. You get log base whatever you're using of itself equals 1 and log base whatever you're using of 1 equals 0. You always get 2 free ones. They will never tell those to you, but we get to use them for free. So that's why, whoops, sorry about that, wrong button. That's why I was able to use 4. So in addition to 3's and 5's, I can also use 1 and 4. 1 and this is going to be whatever my base is, right? So if we were using base 14, it would be 1 and 14 that we could use. Now, where would a 1 ever pop up? What happens if you had log base 4 of 1/3? This is already using 1's and 3's. So do you guys see this would just be log base 4 of 1 minus log base 4 of 3? And what's this equal to? 0 minus, what's this? So the answer is going to be negative a. So that's where the 1 might pop in. So do you guys see how those work? Now, this is not the way the book is going to give it to you. How is the book going to give it to you? The book is going to tell you that instead of log base 4 of 3 equals a, it's going to tell you log base 4 of 3 equals 0.792. They just told you the number. So that means that if you get, for example, a plus, this one would have given us a plus 1. Well, instead of you plugging an a in for log base 4 of 3, what is log base 4 of 3 according to this problem? 0.792. You just put that instead of an a, right? And then what's 0.792 plus 1? So do you guys see it works the same way? You're just plugging in a number, and then you just add or subtract or multiply or divide the numbers, whatever your final answer tells you to do. Does that make sense to everyone? So that's the only difference between the way the book is going to give it to you and the way I'm going to give it to you on the test. On the test, I will give you A's and B's, so you can't plug it into your calculator. I used to try and trap students, and it worked every time, by giving you guys the numbers, but to avoid having people just punch it into their calculator, I would intentionally give them the wrong decimal. So if they got what the real decimal should be, I knew they did it on their calculator. I knew they didn't use the decimals I gave them. But to avoid that whole issue, I just make it equal to a letter, and then there's no way to use your calculator on it, because your calculator can't give you A's and B's. Any questions about how that works? So don't forget to expand completely. That's the big key. Okay? All right. The next thing we need to talk about is we need to talk about our properties going in reverse. Remember our product property said that log base b of mn is equal to log base b of m plus log base b of n. And we said that going from left to right was expanding. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about going from right to left, which is called condensing. We're going to squeeze the logarithms back together. Properties go both directions, which you guys learned in geometry. So now they're going to give you something like this. And ask you to condense the expression. So now instead of trying to match up the left side, what you have with the left side of the property, now when we're condensing, we want this to match up with the right side of the property. Does this structure match up with the right side? Yeah. Notice the bases both match. They're both 2's. And we have log base 2 of something plus log base 2 of something. So I can squeeze these back together. When I squeeze it back together, what is this going to become? That's condensing. It's just expanding in the opposite direction. Does that make sense? Now, here's where people have a tendency to mess things up. What happens if you have this? So this is actually one of those danger ones. Well, what a lot of people do is they make this into 2 log base 2 of 7x. The problem is, does this match the structure of the right side of the property? No. Why not? The 2 in the front. Do you guys see the problem? This 2 in the front has no place in this structure. Because if we were allowed to have numbers in the front, wouldn't there have to be a letter holding the place of that 2 in front of that second log? And there's no letter there. What does that mean? It means the property doesn't say you can have numbers there. Is everybody clear on that? Again, I told you, if the property doesn't specifically say you can do it, you can't do it. Now, that doesn't mean we can't do anything on this one, because we know another property that will allow us to fix that. So I'm going to change back to black, because the proper way to do this is to make this thing equal to log base 2 of 7 plus what? What can we use on this? Perfect. We can use the power property to reattach that. Now do you see that this does match this? Where this 7 is our m, and this x squared is our n? Do you guys see that? So now can we squeeze them together? Yes, into what? Now notice, guys, it doesn't become log base 2 of 7 times log base 2 of x squared. It's log base 2 of 7x squared. We're squeezing it into one logarithm. So does everybody see how that works? So watch out. That's the most common mistake people make, is they squeeze them together even though there's numbers in the front, coefficients. You have to reattach them with the power property first, then you can squeeze them together. Does that make sense to everyone? And again, the property tells you you can't have anything in the front. Otherwise, there'd be a letter there. There'd be like an A in front of one and a C in front of the other. We don't have that. Okay. The quotient property. Says log base b of m divided by n is equal to log base b of m minus log base b of n. Okay, this has the same danger one, but let's do a real example. If I had log base 7 of 4 minus log base 7 of 2, right? Does this match the right side of the property? So we can go from right to left and squeeze it together. What does it become? Can I simplify that more? What does it become? There you go. Everybody see how that works? Now what if I tweak the example a little bit? What if I made this a 14 here? Then this would have been a 14. What would it have simplified down to? And 7 to what power equals 7? So now it would have actually given us an actual number, 1, right? Okay, questions about how that works? Okay, I won't do the danger one because the most common one... Well, actually, no, let me do one of the danger ones because there is one other danger one I do need to talk about on this one because this is a really common mistake. So let's switch to red. Danger. Log base 2 of 7 minus log base 2 of 12 equals log base 2 of 7 divided by log base 2 of 12. Is that what the property says? This does match the right side, but is this what the left side says? No. Likewise, if we started with this, am I allowed to change it into this? No, because this doesn't match either side of the property. So do you guys see this is not correct? If you have this, there's nothing you can do with it using the properties. But if you have this, let me switch back to black, what is the correct way to do this one? Log base 2 of 7/12. That's the correct way to do this. Okay, so do you guys see we're just following what the properties actually say. And this is why I stress that you need to know what the properties actually say and what they don't say. If they don't say it, don't do it. Okay, power property. Log base b of m to the nth power equals n times log base b of m. We've already seen this one. We used it on the product property example. If I have 5 times log base 2 of 3, this matches the right side, so I can rewrite this as what? I can reattach this coefficient as an exponent. Just like I can peel it down, I can also put it back. So let's take a look at one that involves multiple properties. Let's talk about how to do it. So what if we have log base 2 of 7 plus 3 log base 2 of x minus 5 log base 2 of y? Can I start squeezing things together right now? No, why not? The what? The 3 and the 5. What do I have to do with the 3 and the 5 first before I can squeeze these together? Yeah, we have to make them exponents again. So this has to go back up there, and this has to go back up there. So that's going to give us log base 2 of 7 plus log base 2 of x cubed minus log base 2 of y to the 5th. Now, we can start squeezing these together. This is very important, guys. When condensing, and this gets people into trouble, so make sure you pay attention to this. When condensing, you must follow order of operations. We have addition and subtraction. When all we're deciding between is addition and subtraction, which one comes first? Always? Left to right. Remember, addition and subtraction are on the same level. You do them from left to right. You do not get the option of putting these together first and then putting these together. Now, on this one, it wouldn't cause a problem. But if I switch the plus and the minus on this, you get the wrong answer if you do that. So you just go left to right. You have to put these two together first. Now, if there were parentheses, you'd put the stuff in the parentheses together first, right? Okay? And then obviously we did our exponents and stuff like that. So now we're down to just adding and subtracting. We just go left to right. So I do the stuff on the left first. What does this condense down into? Sorry, log base 2 of what? 7x cubed. Leave this guy alone for a minute. One step at a time. Now, can I squeeze those two together? Yes, into what? That's it. There's our answer. When you're done condensing, you should have a single logarithm, and there should be no number in front of it. In other words, it has a coefficient of 1. That's why we don't see it. It's really 1 times log base 2 of 7x cubed over y to the 5th. So do you guys see how condensing works? It's just the opposite of what you did last night. Any questions about those? Okay, the only other thing I want to talk to you about today is I want to refresh your memory on our change of base formula that we talked about a couple of days ago. Because here's where it shows up on the homework. This is for, on the homework, punching things into your calculator. If we want to do log base 2 of 7 on our calculator, we need to change it into what bases? Which two bases do we have to choose from that we have buttons for in our calculator? Log base 10 and ln, log base e, right? I would personally just use log base 10 on this. So this is going to become log base 10 of what? Remember, it's log base 10 over log base 10. What goes on the top one? What goes on the bottom one? Right? The original number goes on the top one. The original base goes on the bottom one. Now you can punch this in as log 7 over log 2 on your calculator. And so when you go to your calculator, you get log 7 divided by log 2. And then they'll typically ask you to do like 3 decimal places. You have to read the instructions, but this would be 2.807. This is about 2.807. So I just wanted to refresh your memory on that. We went over that the other day, remember? How to change bases on logarithms. And the main reason we change bases on logarithms is so that we can punch things into our calculator that otherwise we couldn't, because we don't have a base 2 button on our calculator. Now, if you want to do this as ln 7 over ln of 2, that's fine. It'll give you the same answer. But I would just use base 10. It's just easier. Keep things simple. All right, any questions about any of that? Great. The homework assignment then. And then you guys can start.